So after getting yet another loss, this time versus the Atlanta Hawks, LeBron James decided to tweet something cryptic. So we're going to talk about the Lakers some more and just, speculate on what this could mean. Spoiler alert, I think it means a bunch of trades are gonna happen. Hello everybody, welcome to Awesome Rusty Buckets. Subscribe to the channel if you have not already and drop a like on this video. It only takes 1 second and it makes a massive difference on how the video performs in the YouTube algorithm. So in today's video, we're gonna talk about LeBron and the Lakers. We're also gonna talk about some Lakers trade rumors. We are also going to talk about Kyle Kuzma trade stuff, the Celtics versus Indiana game. There's been discourse around the 65 game rule, and I'm also going to talk about Sabrina versus Steph in a three-point contest. On top of that, we're also going to talk about Ben Simmons' return. So lots of stuff to discuss in this one, and there's actually one more thing that I want to address up the top here that was brought to my attention recently. The third most viewed video on this channel, one of the most successful we've ever had, was recently uploaded here, and it was about Doc Rivers and him becoming the head coach of the Milwaukee Bucks. Video did 100K, which is great, but we got a lot of comments, and there is a type of person that I want to make sure that I purge from my audience, and I do this every once in a while just to make sure it happens. But there were a lot of suggestions that the reason that Doc keeps getting hired is because he is black. And if you're the type of person who says shit like that, I would just like you to do both of us a favor and fuck off. So yeah, I don't want you as a part of my audience. I have no interest in your perspective. It is a flawed, ignorant, racist one. I also find it funny that this is happening after another black coach was fired that he was replacing. The reason there are more black coaches in the NBA now than there used to be is that the barrier of entry has been slowly but surely going away, and things are the way that they naturally should be, rather than it just being dominated by a bunch of white dudes as it historically has been. And I'm not hearing that shit where you're like, this is just hiring people to meet a racial quota. Please get the fuck out. Legitimately, get the fuck out. I don't want you here. But with that out of the way, let's move on to the fun stuff, which is the Lakers falling apart. So LeBron tweeted a hourglass emoji. This is one of my favorite things in basketball discourse because it's complete fucking nonsense. But what gets better than complete fucking nonsense? There's not too much to read into it. It's an emoji, and an hourglass is a signal of time. I don't necessarily know what that means. I don't think he's suggesting maybe time is running out for the Lakers is the suggestion there. Time is running out for the players on the team. I don't know what it is, but it definitely can't be a good thing. Maybe it's time is running out for Darvin Ham. Who knows? But they definitely need to get rid of Darvin Ham. They lost to the Atlanta Hawks the other day in a game where the defense was just not felt whatsoever. Apparently, Christian Wood tweeted LOL from the locker room after not getting to start, which is a very Christian Wood thing to do, I'd say. The body language of LeBron recently suggests he's not all too thrilled about the situation in LA. There's a video of him reacting to Darvin Ham drawing up a play where he just looks completely perplexed and upset with what he's doing. Seems like the guy should be fired. I don't know about you, but it seems like that's been the way it's needed to be for quite a while. Pretty ridiculous that Frank Vogel got fired in the first place, but you're not making it any better by continuing to stick with that decision. You need to get rid of Darvin Ham. I don't know who that coach needs to be, but it can't be him anymore. It's very clear that he has lost the locker room. It's very clear that he's lost LeBron. And it's very clear that he is not the coach that is necessary to bring this team to the promised land or anything even resembling that. I talked about the Lakers a good bit yesterday, so I'm not going to harp on it too much. But yeah, this cryptic ass tweeting from LeBron, typically when this happens, changes are right around the corner. So it's something to keep an eye on. I also want to mention some of the trade rumors that the Lakers are in. They are apparently interested in Spencer Dinwiddie, Royce O'Neal, and Dorian Finney-Smith. Of course, all of those are Brooklyn Nets players, and I think they could all make solid contributions to the Lakers. I don't know if Spencer Dinwiddie is really all that necessary. I feel like he's no worse or no better than D'Angelo Russell or Austin Reeves as shot creators, so I feel like I'd rather just get a way better shot creator than just another guy in that tier. Royce O'Neal and Dorian Finney-Smith are both excellent 3-and-D players. They're definitely better at defense than they are three-point shooting, so, you know, I think the Lakers probably need more three-point shooting than they do defense, but they also do need both. But either way, those are players that are probably obtainable for a minimal asking price that could actually make a difference for them, so that's something, I guess. I want to talk about the Boston versus Indiana game because it's pretty much always very entertaining when these two teams match up. I believe this game was a 4 or 5 point deficit at the end in favor of Boston. The Celtics were dominating most of the way through, but they managed to make a decent comeback with Tyrese Halliburton in the third quarter. Unfortunately, I think Indiana probably would have actually closed this game if not for Tyrese having a minutes restriction as he recovers from an injury. So he was not able to play in the fourth. It ended up being a lot of Andrew Nembhard, who I think is a pretty freaking excellent backup point guard, one of the best in the NBA, but he's not Tyrese Halliburton. He has a really nice elbow pull-up. He's a good playmaker. He seems to be a pretty good defender for his size, but just not enough to bring it home against the best team in the NBA, which I think is perfectly fair. Overall, it was interesting seeing Kristaps Porzingis versus Miles Turner because they're like the two best stretch fives, I guess, other than like Karl Anthony Towns in the NBA, but Cat's technically a 4 now, but you know, whatever. One way or the other, it was very interesting to see those two go at it. Jason Tatum had a ridiculous first half. I think he also had like 20-something points in the second quarter, just hitting shot after shot regardless of the defense, especially from three. I also want to point out this play that really was the play that stood out to me of the game. I'm sorry if I pronounce this name wrong, but it's from Boston's backup center, Neemias, I'm going to look it up, Neemias Queta. He got a tip against, I think it was Jalen Smith. Jalen won the tip, but someone immediately tipped it back to Neemias Queta, and he immediately got a poster dunk. So that play was awesome. I just wanted to highlight that. In general, I'm finding it harder and harder to actually point out individual plays in a game because I'm just having that problem where things are blending together more and more and more as time goes on. Porzingis got a poster dunk on Miles Turner. I also remember that. Aaron Nesmith had a really big game. I do remember that as well, getting a little bit of revenge against his former Celtics. Aaron Nesmith continues to impress me more and more every time I watch Pacers games. He's like such a talented 3-and-D player in the NBA, really well built, and he like doesn't just shoot, like he can attack off of the catch. He got like a mid-range pull-up or two going in this one. He was really good. In general, a lot of players played good for the Pacers, but it just wasn't quite enough when they did not have their driving force in Tyrese Halliburton. Speaking of that problem I mentioned with the offense blurring together, there is actually an interesting graphic that Rudy showed me that I wish I could have seen and used as a point in my offense has it gone too far, whatever video. If you haven't watched that yet, it'll be the top link in the description. But something I neglected to mention was that when Adam Silver became the commissioner of the NBA, the offensive jump kind of started immediately from there and only has gotten more and more and more significant. The average points per game when Adam Silver took over as commissioner was 105.6. It is now 115.7. Adam Silver's influence on the NBA, I mean, to be fair, he also came in the first year that the Warriors were a thing, and I don't know how much he actually directly influenced that. Regardless, yeah, it's something worthy of note. I guess it's interesting to consider. Adam Silver versus, of course, the legendary David Stern. David Stern. You know what's funny? I almost said Commissioner Gordon earlier. That's a character from Batman. Anyways, Kyle Kuzma is apparently on the trade market, and the value that the Wizards were looking for is not quite the same that it was before. They are no longer demanding 2 first-round picks for Kuzma per The Athletic, and if the price for him is just a first-round pick and matching salary, that's got to be a pretty enticing player for a lot of teams around the league. I realize that Kyle Kuzma is a bit of a meme player, and people like to shit on him all the time, but in reality, Kuzma is definitely a positive NBA player I think he's capable of being a decent defender, a decent stretch option, really good forward for running the floor, creating a little bit of offense inside the arc. Kind of does a little bit of everything, and for the asking price, especially being that I don't think he makes too much money. What's his salary at? Yeah, he's at about 25 million this year, 23. It's descending eventually down to just 19. That is a pretty good deal, and I think that will attract a lot of teams in the league. The main ones that have been interested have been the Sacramento Kings and the Dallas Mavericks. I think the Kings make a little bit more sense than the Mavericks. The Mavericks, I feel like I'd want them to go for something a little bit better than Kuzma, a little bit bigger of a swing, but I also feel like if they just added him and that was it, it would definitely give them a boost. It wouldn't be enough to like really give them the swing that I want to see from them, but positive nonetheless. But yeah, Kyle Kuzma's market is down, which means there's probably going to be a lot more buyers. Ben Simmons has returned, and in his first game, he immediately got hurt, so he's probably questionable for the follow-up game. He apparently tweaked his knee against the Jazz and is now questionable against the Suns. He did have a near triple-double in just 18 minutes with 10 points, 8 rebounds, and 11 assists, going 5 for 5 from the field. It being his first game in almost 3 months, that's pretty fucking impressive, I would say. And hopefully, we're not really waiting on Ben Simmons to become a star-level player again. I feel like that's a stretch. Maybe it's achievable, but I'm betting against it. However, him actually being a really good NBA player, a really positive NBA player, I think that's still in the cards. So for that reason, I just wanted to highlight that. I'm consistently rooting for Ben. I've always felt that the way that NBA fans treated him has been super unfair and super undeserved, and I'm always going to root for a guy like that. Anyways, the 65 game rule. This is something that has been discussed quite a bit lately, specifically revolving around Joel Embiid and his MVP case, as well as Tyrese Halliburton made some comments to the media about it. In the case of Tyrese, he was making these comments because he's probably not going to meet the 65 games played threshold, which means he's not going to make All-NBA, which seems like pretty ludicrous given the context of how he's played this year. And of course, Joel Embiid has only got 7 or 8 games left in the season that he can miss, and considering that he's someone who's consistently dealing with small injuries here or there, it's starting to seem less and less likely that he is going to walk away with the MVP. There is actually a report from Sixers insiders believing that Joel Embiid actually played versus the Warriors because of the scrutiny of the injury stuff and actually trying to win that award, as a result potentially putting himself in danger for making the injury worse. So yeah, the question is, is 65 games too limiting? I feel like for the MVP, if you look at it historically, there's probably not a lot of MVPs who didn't play 65 games. However, I feel like Joel Embiid has been so dominant and so good throughout this year that if he played 60 games, he should still probably be the MVP, even with somebody else actually playing 22 more games than him. That's just how fucking good he's been. 36, 10 and 6 or 10 and 5, 12 and 5, however many rebounds he's averaging on way above average true shooting. Excellent defender as well. Dude should be the runaway MVP, but this 65 game rule for the award does seem like it might prevent that from happening. And that's kind of an L for whoever actually would win the MVP as well, because Embiid has dominated the MVP discussion to such a degree that whoever would get the award instead, it would feel like it wasn't really their award. It was just given to them based on the circumstances of this rule. I kind of agree in principle with the idea of there being some kind of limitation. I just feel like 65 is a little too low. I feel like they should allow for 20 missed games. I would probably just round it out at a cool 60 just to keep it close. 22 missed games is the most that you get. I don't agree that it should just be non-existent, but I do see why players are upset by it. And if literally in the first year of this rule being in place, we get a false MVP out of it, then it's definitely a rule that's going to need some tweaking and some looking at. And the last thing I want to talk about is Sabrina and Stephen Curry having a 3-point contest in the All-Star game. According to the NBA's official post, they want to do this with an NBA ball and NBA three-point line for Steph, and WNBA ball and WNBA three-point line for Sabrina. However, Sabrina specifically asked for an NBA three-point line. I feel like the ball size difference is ultimately fairly inconsequential and should be, she's used to playing with a WNBA ball, so that's what she should get to use, and same for Steph. I do like the idea more of her actually shooting from NBA three-point range. I feel weird about this whole thing because I think this is going to be awesome, and I think it's cool, and hopefully something that we can continue to see more of, just the WNBA and NBA coming together for just a fun entertainment product. Obviously not playing actual games, but like, this is cool. I just don't know how NBA Twitter is going to handle it, because NBA Twitter is full of some of the most misogynistic, racist, homophobic, transphobic, whatever type of phobic you can think of. NBA Twitter's got plenty of them. Depending on how this goes, it could be pretty ugly on there. Stephen Curry, also another factor in this, is that it's a charity event, and I don't know if you guys know the meme, but Stephen Curry, historically, when he shot the ball for charity events, suddenly he has the outside shot of Jimmy Butler, so that is not so that's not ideal in his favor historically. But in general, I think this is really cool. I know that Sabrina set the record for most points scored in a three-point contest, but I also feel like part of it was arbitrary rules that are this is worth more or whatever. But under the same set of rules, I think this could definitely be very interesting. I'm gonna go with Steph because he's the greatest shooter of all time, but I also, from what I know about Sabrina, her three-point numbers are fucking ridiculous. So I think this has a chance to genuinely actually be pretty close, especially factoring in the charity part of this equation. Something fun I just wanted to acknowledge. I look forward to that in the All-Star weekend, which is saying something because I usually don't look forward to fucking anything revolving around the All-Star weekend. That is it. Shout out to Nick for editing this video. That's right, Nick. His podcast, The Coping Hour, is going to be linked in the description. But that is it. Goodbye. Give me a Minute Maid fruit punch if they have it.
Nick, put that part in the video.